You're listening to a Rev FM production podcast. Welcome to Pastors Live, the show that discusses things of the Bible and current events for people who love to laugh. And now, the hosts who answer questions with more questions. It's Pastors Dave, Ty, Shane, and the other guy.
Well, top of the morning to y'all. You're listening to Pastors Live. Pastors Live at the Rev.fm. That's Pastors Live at the Rev.fm. It is Thursday, August 22nd, 2024, and we are on episode 1095. That's insane.
Wow.
Boys, we're getting into the big numbers now.
Yeah, are we? That's right. Yeah, and we're big boys now. We're big boys.
We're big
right.
boys. I'm a big kid now.
Who's that?
I'm back.
There's a voice from the past.
I know,
It's a bird.
right?
It's a plane. It's Pastor Ty.
Yeah, I'm just like, wow.
Hey, Pastor Ty.
Hey,
welcome,
guys.
welcome back to the studio.
Thanks. I've missed you guys. I got a chance to listen to a couple of the programs while I was away. So
We were actually going to mess with your chair and your mic, and we decided to be kind. But you do have all of the Potato Head family actually facing you and saying welcome home.
Yes,
big boy,
and it's
and the big boy.
It's it's almost a little disturbing there actually.
You know what?
They just don't blink. It's just like
they're
puts
like
drops.
zombie potatoes.
right,
So,
right, yeah.
While you were gone, we had National Potato Day, and we totally dissed the Potato Head family.
It's true.
Oh, yeah. Did you guys know there's
we
a Tater Tot
apologize.
Festival?
What?
No.
Yes, actually, yeah.
I found that out. We're going to bed last night, and my wife leans over and she said, "Did you know there's a Tater Tot Festival?" I'm like,
Where?
That's what I thought. I was like, where?
Gabby needs to know.
Yeah, because we need
loves
to know
potatoes.
this. Where is the Tater Tot Festival? Lori didn't tell me.
Sylvia
so
mentioned something to me about it. Maybe she and Lori were looking at the same thing.
that's a possibility.
Yeah.
Because I don't know. How do you like your tater tots? That's a great question.
We air fry ours.
You air fry yours.
Yeah, it has a nice crispy outside.
yeah.
Anyway.
I like loaded tater tots where you have like chili, cheese, sour cream.
Yeah, that's
Where you almost don't taste the tater tots.
It's pretty much like nachos, but with tater tots.
The tater tot is just the vehicle to get the chili and the nacho cheese into your mouth.
Well, yeah, it's like
Exactly.
nachos. Yeah, it's I kind of like I like anything that's tater tot related. So, but
So does Gabby, man.
Yeah,
she's
I'm with Dave though. I feel like tater tots have to pop when
need to
you
be
eat
crispy.
them.
They kind of do. They need to be crispy.
Yeah, soggy tater tots are the
Oh,
worst.
no.
And the worst though is when you get like sweet potato tots and they're a little soggy.
That's
just
crazy,
That's
Hey, guys,
Yes.
the Greater Tater Tot Festival is actually, are you ready for this?
Yeah.
Right here in Idaho Falls.
What?
Yeah.
When?
When is that?
I'm working on that right now.
Oh, okay.
But here's what I can tell you. To purchase an individual ticket to the Tater Tot Festival is only $75.
That's
What?
it.
What?
Wow.
If you want to
Is it
purchase a
free?
VIP ticket for a full table, it's only $500.
VIP.
tell you something.
These tater tots better.
Yeah, I was
be
gonna
something,
say.
man.
Well, very important potatoes. So
It's very important potatoes. So, Steve, how do you like your tater tots, man?
I like them nice and crispy.
You like them crispy?
Oh, yeah.
Ben, what about you, man?
Hi, I'm also here. I have answers on the Tater Tot Festival and opinions on it, which is tater tots are the absolute best quintessential part of a good casserole.
Yes.
Yes.
Tater tot
Yes.
casserole is very good.
Yes.
They should always be.
That's really good.
I feel like they can be eaten in a lot of ways, but the best way, I kind of have to be with Dave on this one. You spray them with olive oil and then you air
There you
fry
go.
them.
Yeah.
that's right.
Air
Makes
fry
them
'em.
super
It's the best.
super crispy on the outside. And really
put a little
creamy
garlic on
the
'em?
inside. Yes.
Right?
Absolutely.
A little garlic on a crispy tater tot. You're in. So here it is, fellas. Here it is.
Okay.
Are you ready?
Drum roll.
Tuesday, September 3rd and Wednesday, September 4th.
Oh, man.
I know.
Oh, I'm
You'll
out
be
of
in
town.
Florida.
Yep. Be gone.
Oh, seriously, I'm
I'm
going
in
to be in Florida.
Washington.
Oh, man, that's awful.
Everything's
Well, my $75 will go towards something else.
during our.
Am I reading that right? I think I read that
Right?
Yeah, we missed everything.
We miss everything. It's okay.
Well, what's interesting
we get
is
to go to
the-
Oh, no,
Hurricane
no,
Al.
I was wrong. I was wrong. I was wrong. Hold it. I admit when I'm wrong. I was wrong. It was August 16th and August 17th. We already missed it.
Oh, we missed it.
It was at Sandy Downs.
Oh,
But it was
It was
also
at
the first ever one
So
They founded it this year.
Oh,
Wow.
so it was the first annual Tater Tot
Yep,
Festival.
it is going to be recurring.
So we could come up with our own festival. Potato something.
Well, I mean, as far as the
Potato-
days go, just so everybody knows,
potato
I mean,
casserole.
obviously last week you guys were talking about, last week was Potato Day or whatever that was. But today is Tooth Fairy Day.
Yeah.
And so I still think it was I think it was one movie that should have killed Dwayne Johnson's career.
look at
I'm
number
just
2,
saying.
though. That's
What?
a beautiful day.
National
man.
Burger Day.
Yeah.
And with tater tots.
You know what goes good with burgers?
Yeah, tater tots.
Tater tots. You
Yeah,
know
that's
what
right.
I ate
Exactly.
on Tuesday? Gabby made elk. Well, she put it all together. I grilled it. Elk chorizo with jalapeno.
Yes.
And
Papas.
cheese.
You need to
stuffed
put some
burgers.
green
Nice.
chili on
Yeah.
that.
It
Hatch
was
green chili.
It was delicious. And then she made tater tots,
There you go.
or potato wedges or whatever on the side.
Well, see, now that's just good stuff right there. But obviously, you guys were talking about a lot of stuff while I was gone, which was great. I love some of the programs. It was really encouraging. But we have got great guys in the studio today. Benjamin's here today doing our engineering.
Hi, Ben.
And we've got Shane's here today.
Hello.
I'm back. I'm Time.
God bless
Dave's
you,
here
Ty.
today.
God bless you guys.
Steve is here today.
Hello.
God bless you,
And
Steve.
we
God
have
bless
some
you.
wonderful readings today. And I just, one of the things about our reading today, which I really appreciate in 1 Corinthians 4, is when Paul says, he says, let a man so consider us as servants of Christ. And then he says, and stewards of the mysteries of God. And I it's one of those things about being a servant that I think a lot of people misunderstand. And I think we should, first of all, we should talk about what it is to be a servant of Christ. Then we should talk about what it is to be a steward of the mysteries of God. But when you think about it, Jesus says in Matthew, who then is faithful and a wise servant whom his master made ruler over his household to give him food in due season. And, Jesus talks about servanthood an awful lot. Mm-hmm. And, he talks about servanthood. Paul, he talks about servanthood. And this idea of being a servant, when you guys think about that, when we talk about, hey, let's be a servant of Christ, what does that mean to you guys when you think about being a servant? I mean, what comes to your mind? Because there's sacrifice that comes in that. There's obedience. There's all kinds of things. But what comes to mind when you think about being a servant?
When I think of a good server, right? A server. The servant doesn't come out to the master or to the one who is giving orders and say, this is what I'm going to give you. Does that make sense?
Yeah.
Like when I go into a restaurant, when I get seated, the server doesn't immediately come to the table with food and say, hey, I'm going out on a limb here. This is this is what I'm bringing for you. And no, that's exactly not what I want, right?
Right.
That the server in a great house or a server is one who is just there to take orders, and you're there to do the master's bidding. What has God called me to do? And what he's called Pastor Ty to do may be different from what he calls Pastor Steve or Shane or Dave or what he calls Benjamin to do. Mm-hmm. And I also am not only there to be obedient to the master, but I'm there to not tear down the other servers. What are you doing? Are you kidding me? Don't you know how to serve tea? You're the worst, but to edify and to help other servers.
Yeah, I mean, verse 2 for me kind of sparks because the conversation about stewardship can go very deep, especially when you're talking about servanthood in the Bible, right?
Right.
Look at what Paul says in verse 2. In this case, moreover, it is required of stewards, servants, that one be found trustworthy. I think that's huge, is because, one, I agree with Dave 100% that a servant needs to be others focused, right? Their life needs to be dedicated to Jesus, serving the master, and then they need to be others focused in edifying and building them up.
Right.
And being trustworthy helps you accomplish that. And I love how Paul introduces that in the beginning, because you're not going to want somebody around you that you don't trust, right? This guy's ripping me off, or he always takes advantage of me, whatever, right? Fill in the blank. But when you find someone who's trustworthy and just sincere in their service towards you, I think that's a world of difference.
Well, it is, and I agree with you, Pastor Ty. I think there is a distinction between being a server or servant and a steward, right?
Yeah.
A servant does the master's bidding, but the steward is responsible to know where to find the master's wealth.
Right.
Okay, so there are two different things, right? So in verse 2, it's required of stewards that a man be found faithful, that God doesn't measure my success by numbers. He measures my success by faithfulness. Does that make sense?
Absolutely.
So we were talking while Pastor Ty was gone. There was a conversation that we had about, if God were to call Water Springs to make bricks that were imprinted with Scripture, I would believe, I think we would, the very next day we'd be looking for a local kiln. We'd be looking for a place. Okay, God, you've called us to make bricks with Scriptures on them. Doesn't make sense to us, but if that's what you want, that's what we'll do. If God calls you to do something as a servant, you just do what the master says. But as a steward, you are responsible to know where his wealth is. And in verse 3, to your comment, Shane, Paul says, not a big deal to me how you judge me. And that's what I was getting at with servants building up other servants rather than tearing them down, because God hasn't called me to give you and Ty and Steve and Ben. He hasn't called me to grade you guys. God has never one time, and it's a little disappointing to me. I've been a Christian for over 50 years. In fact, coming up on 60 years I've been a Christian. And doggone it, God has not ever one time said, hey, Dave, could you help me judge somebody? I'm a little busy. There's 8 billion of you guys running around down there. And would you go ahead and just turn around and pass judgment on that guy for me, or those people or that group? He's just never done that because he doesn't need me to judge others. In fact, he says, you should be praying daily that your words build up and don't corrupt or tear down.
And that's what the weekend teaching was this last weekend at Water Springs, is not nitpicking at one another and arguing and tearing one another down for the sake of you being on top, but it's exactly what you're saying. Yeah, there's one master, and he's the one who examines us.
Yeah, exactly.
We're all servants.
We're all servants.
We're all servants.
And when we mistreat another servant, the master's not too happy about that, right?
And I think I'm super disappointed in the well, I would say probably the bigger picture, the house of God, so to speak, right? Because we have so many people that are nitpicking and being mean and saying things that ought not be said from the mouths of believers about or towards other believers. It just boggles my mind.
Yeah.
And I think sometimes when you get away, which is really important for all of us for a little bit of sanity, you kind of decompress a little bit, and I think you kind of come back into the fray, and you're like you can become a little you become desensitized when you're in it all the time.
Yep.
And when you're desensitized, you can not realize when you're doing it. And then so when you get away from it and you start going, oh, wait a minute, that's not right. That's not good. To realize that we're supposed to support one another and lift one another up. But as a servant, that's what it is to be a servant. Jesus says, if you want to be the greatest in the kingdom, you have to be the servant or slave. It's the slave is the word, right?
And they don't get attaboys for going out and doing their work and then coming in and serving the master his supper.
Yeah.
He says they don't get praise. That's just what they're supposed to do. You go out, you work. When the master comes into the house, you serve him, then you get to eat. He goes, there's no praise. Jesus taught it. There's no praise in that. That's just the expectation.
Yeah, and I think a lot of times what we forget about is we, especially young people that want to be pastors or church leaders, sometimes I think they forget what it is to just do the job.
Yeah.
Just do the job. The praise comes, but do the job. And you humble yourself, like Peter says, right? Humble yourself under the mighty hand of God, and then He will lift you up in due time. It's due time.
The scary
it's
part
not
for
your time; it's due time. It's when God sees fit to lift us up from that place of humility. Jesus said the same thing. When you go into the feast, don't take the best seat,
right,
lest you be removed
and humiliated
in front of all. Rather, take the lowest seat and then allow the master to call you out.
Yeah.
I think the scary part and I agree with that 100%. The scary part for a guy my age, for me, is when the Lord has put you in a position of oversight, of maybe of other servers or whatever it might be, and you begin to believe, a guy my age and in my position can begin to believe, man, I earned that. I have a right to be here. I have a right to have the first parking space closest to the church office, rather than, hey, why don't you park out a little ways and let other people, let the flock have the better parking space, or whatever it might be. Hey, I'm just going to cut in line here and get I know there's a line for people to get coffee in the fellowship hall. I'm just going to jump up front because I'm one of the pastors.
Yeah, just go to the head of the line.
Yeah. And it's like, boy, what a lousy witness. Go to the back of the line.
Right.
Or if you see someone who needs some assistance, go out of your way to assist them, rather than saying, hey, do you guys mind? I'm first. Because have you seen my office door? It says Pastor Dave.
Yeah, I think it's just about being humble,
Right, absolutely.
Well, we're ministers, right? Which means, he says, the verse you read, let a man so account us as ministers or servants. That word for minister is the under-oarsman. We're the third level galley slaves. We're not the guys on top cracking the whip, say, get the ship going that way. We're the guys down below that, are getting messed on. We're the under rowers, And the guy beating the drum is beating it for us.
Yeah.
Well, and the under rowers, if you think about it, and for those of you who don't know, we obviously we've been talking about a lot of things. We've been having some fun with, obviously we've got some Irish people here.
Hello.
And I do
Mr.
have
Mick Urry.
Yes.
Did you know that Tim's Irish?
Tim
Rupp is Irish. So you got 3 pastors on staff.
4.
Oh, yeah, you're Irish too.
Let me tell you, while we were there,
I remember.
I showed you. I showed you where "or" comes from.
Right.
Sorry, Pastor Ty. I know.
We're
I've got
that
I'm
red
Irish.
hair of yours is that Viking influence on the
I've
Irish.
got a hint of Irish in me.
Yeah. Okay. Well, here's a hint. We're talking.
Mainly German though. So we would
I
have to
found
take
out.
you guys over.
Yeah.
But that's right. The Irish and the Germans intermarried quite a bit.
Yeah.
So.
Well, and it was interesting to me to just think about this idea of my Viking heritage, my Norwegian heritage. Obviously, most of it is from Ireland and Wales. Just historically, because the Vikings came over and basically took over England. And so that's where a lot of my heritage is from. But Vikings were brutal, and they were also something else, because they would. What is it when you take your boat and you go across land with it? I can't remember what that's called all of a sudden.
Oh yeah.
What is it called? What is
Where
it?
you take the boat. And
Is
you
it
carry
forging?
Across
Is
land.
it?
You carry it across.
And
they did that.
Yeah, Vikings would do that with their with all their food and their supplies, and they would pick the whole boat up and they would
carry it.
And you're just like, these are
they're brutal.
These are. But you think about the idea of just rowing and just being faithful to row, and you see all that stuff, and that was part of how they moved. Obviously they'd use the wind, but they would row, and
that brings me to what I was going to point out too, is there's a time and a season in between a servant and then the transition into a steward, right?
Right.
And
so we're going. There is a time between a servant and a steward, right? There's a season where you have to be faithful in your servanthood, and that proves that you are trustworthy to become a steward, right? And I think a lot of young guys want to miss out on that.
Well, they want to be at the top and not have to.
Right.
work.
Right.
I mean, they want to.
Well,
they see all the glitz and the glamour.
Well, and part of it,
and that's not what it's about.
It sure is glamorous.
Yeah, right. They see what they think they see,
We're
but
third
it's
level
not.
galley slaves. Boy,
Right.
oh boy,
It's not like that at all.
Line
you know?
up for that job.
yeah, right.
Speaking from the perspective of a young person,
Yeah.
right? I think one of the issues is as you're growing up, you don't understand timing, and as you grow
that's a
in
good point.
age, you understand the concept of time better. I believe,
And,
yeah,
it makes
like timing.
it makes sense that okay, things don't have to happen right away. You know,
Right.
The whole world's not going to fall apart if it's
Good
a year.
things usually don't, right?
Right,
Yeah.
exactly. And so you have a maturity to the sense of time,
Right.
both spiritually and practically, right?
Yeah.
And that helps. It's kind of like wine, you know, as
And
it
obedience
sits, it gets better
and
better
loyalty is
better.
part of it.
I'm
you
a
know.
Christian. I wouldn't know about wine. So I wouldn't. But,
What are you talking about? Whining?
Yeah, whining.
W-H-I-N-E?
The more you whine, the more
Whine.
cheese you get, the longer you sit in the corner.
Dave,
You're
you were
in
whispering
timeout.
something to me. So you're saying it was porridge?
Portage.
Portage.
Portage,
Portage.
that's what it is.
Portage.
Yeah,
Okay.
they would portage their
Portage.
roast.
Yeah,
I'm not.
all my Viking heritage, all my Viking
Portage.
people are mad at me now. But
I know.
you know, I
right.
couldn't
I'm not
remember the
smart.
word.
I googled it. So. Or maybe that is smart. I don't know.
He's whispering to me in the studio. I'm like, what does porridge have to do with
Porridge.
anything we were talking about?
Did
So
they
it's
eat
porridge.
porridge?
Goldilocks was a Viking. Everybody knows
That-
it.
that's right.
Red hair. I mean, come on.
Hey, listen, man,
Those
we're out
Viking
of time.
bears.
Yeah, that's right. We're out of time for
Viking
today.
bears.
Listen, you're loved, your family. We'd
The
love to
Bears.
hear from you.
The Bears.
Pastors Live at the Rev.fm.
Bears.
Pastors Live at the Rev.fm. And
what
God
a
bless
mess.
you, and we'll talk to you next time.
Bye, guys.
You've reached the end of another episode of Pastors Live, a Rev FM production podcast. Thank you for listening. Submit your questions and comments by email to pastorslive@therev.fm. If you enjoyed this episode and you'd like to help support the podcast, please share it with others. Post about it on social media or leave a rating and review from your favorite podcast listening platform. Subscribe to our podcast on Spotify, Google Podcasts, Apple Podcasts, or Amazon so you don't miss the next episode drop.